Hey there, friends. Pastor Jason here. Glad you can join me for daily devotionals. Today we're in Numbers 5 and 6, and as you can see from the background, I'm here at home. That means Associate Pastor Greg is lurking somewhere here in the background. He just picked up his bone to start chewing. We'll see what happens. He's been a little bit of a cuddle bug today, so maybe he might make an appearance. But we're going to read through Numbers 5 and 6. Chapter 5 deals with adultery. Chapter 6 talks about consecrating your life. So, here we go. Chapter 5. The Lord instructed Moses, "Command the Israelites to send away anyone from the camp who is afflicted with a skin disease, anyone who has bodily discharge, or anyone who is defiled because of a corpse. You must send away both male or female. Send them outside the camp so they will not defile their camps where I dwell among them." The Israelites did this, sending them outside the camp. The Israelites did as the Lord instructed Moses. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, when a man or a woman commits any sin against another, that person acts unfaithfully toward the Lord and is guilty. The person is to confess the sin he has committed. He is to pay full compensation, add a fifth of its value to it, and give it to the individual he has wronged. But if that individual has no relative to receive the compensation goes to the Lord for the priest, along with the atonement ram by which the priest will make atonement for the guilty person. Every holy contribution the Israelites present to the priest will be his. Each one's holy contribution is his to give. What each one gives to the priest will be his." The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, if any man's wife goes astray, is unfaithful to him, and sleeps with another, but is concealed from her husband, and she is undetected, but it is concealed from her husband, and she is undetected, even though she has defiled herself, since there is no witness against her, and wasn't caught in the act. And if a feeling of jealousy comes over the husband and he becomes jealous because of his wife who has defiled herself, or if a feeling of jealousy comes over him and he becomes jealous of her though she has not defiled herself, then the man is to bring his wife to the priest. He is also to bring an offering for her of 2 quarts of barley flour. He is not to pour oil over it or put frankincense on it, because it's a grain offering of jealousy. A grain offering for remembrance that brings sin to mind. The priest is to bring her forward and to have her stand before the Lord. Then the priest is to take holy water in a clay bowl and take some of the dust from the tabernacle floor and put it in the water. After the priest has the woman stand before the Lord, he is to let down her hair and place in her hands the grain offering for remembrance, which is the grain offering of jealousy. The priest is to hold the bitter water that brings a curse. The priest will require the woman to take an oath and will say to her, "If no man has slept with you, if you have not gone astray and become defiled while under your husband's authority, be unaffected by this bitter water that brings a curse. But if you have gone astray while under your husband's authority, if you have defiled yourself, and a man other than your husband has slept with you, at this point the priest must make the woman take the oath with the sworn curse, and he is to say to her, 'May the Lord make you into an object of your people's cursing and swearing when he makes your thigh shrivel and your belly swell. May this water that brings a curse enter your stomach, causing your belly to swell and your thigh to shrivel.' The woman must reply, 'Amen, amen.' Then the priest is to write these curses on a scroll and wash them off into the bitter water. He will require the woman to drink the bitter water that brings a curse, and it will enter her and cause bitter suffering. The priest is to take the grain offering of jealousy from the woman's hand, wave the offering before the Lord, and bring it to the altar. The priest is to take a handful of the grain as a memorial portion and burn it on the altar. Then he will require the woman to drink the water. When he makes her drink the water, if she has defiled herself and been unfaithful to her husband, the water that brings a curse will enter her, cause bitter suffering, and her belly will swell and her thigh will shrivel. She will become a curse among her people. But the woman has not defiled herself and is pure. She will be unaffected and will be able to conceive children. This is the law regarding jealousy when a wife goes astray and defiles herself while under her husband's authority, or when a feeling of jealousy comes over a husband and he becomes jealous of his wife. He is to have the woman stand before the Lord, and the priest will apply this entire ritual to her. The husband will be free of guilt, but that woman will bear the consequences of her guilt. Chapter 6. The Lord instructed Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, when a man or a woman makes a special vow, a Nazirite vow, to consecrate himself to the Lord, he is to abstain from wine and beer. He must not drink vinegar made from wine or from beer. He must not drink any grape juice or eat fresh grapes or raisins. He is not to eat anything produced by the grapevine, from seeds to skin, during his vow. You must not cut his hair throughout the time of his vow of consecration. He must be holy until the time is completed during which he consecrates himself to the Lord. He is to let the hair of his head grow long. He must not go near a dead body during the time he consecrates himself to the Lord. He is not to defile himself for his father or mother or his brother or sister when they die, because the hair consecrated to his God is on his head. He is holy to the Lord during the time of consecration. If someone suddenly dies near him, defiling his consecrated head of hair, he must shave his head on the day of his purification. He is to shave it on the 7th day. On the 8th day, he is to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The priest is to offer one as a sin offering, the other as a burnt offering, to make atonement on behalf of the Nazirite, since he sinned because of the corpse. On that day, he must consecrate his head again. He is to rededicate his time of consecration to the Lord and to bring a year-old male lamb as a restitution offering. But do not count the previous period, because his consecrated hair became defiled. This is the law of the Nazirite. On the day his time of consecration is completed, he must be brought to the entrance to the tent of meeting. He is to present an offering to the Lord, 1 unblemished year-old male lamb as a burnt offering, 1 unblemished year-old female lamb as a sin offering, 1 unblemished ram as a fellowship offering, along with their grain offerings and drink offerings, and a basket of unleavened cakes made from fine flour mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers coated with oil. The priest is to present these before the Lord and sacrifice the Nazirite's sin offering and burnt offering. He will also offer the ram as a fellowship sacrifice according to the Lord. Together with the basket of unleavened bread, the priest will offer the accompanying grain offering and drink offering. The Nazirite is to shave his consecrated head at the entrance of the tent of meeting, take the hair from his head and put it on the fire under the fellowship sacrifice. The priest is to take the boiled shoulder from the ram, 1 unleavened cake from the basket, and 1 unleavened wafer, and put them into the hands of the Nazirite after he has shaved his consecrated head. The priest is to wave them as a presentation offering before the Lord. It is a holy portion for the priest, in addition to the breast of the presentation offering and the thigh of the contribution. After that, the Nazirite may drink wine. This is the ritual of the Nazirite who vows his offering to the Lord for his consecration, in addition to whatever else he can afford. He must fulfill whatever vow he makes in keeping with the ritual for his consecration. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell Aaron and his sons how you are to bless the Israelites. Say to them, 'May Yahweh bless you and protect you. May Yahweh make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May Yahweh look with favor on you and give you peace. In this way, they will pronounce my name over the Israelites, and I will bless them.'" Numbers 5 and 6. What do we take away? There was one verse back there in chapter 5 that really stands out to me, and that was about the the offering of jealousy, and it was in verse 15 at the very end, because it is a grain offering of jealousy, a grain offering for remembrance that brings sin to mind. And I think that's a very interesting note, that it's an offering that of remembrance that brings sin to mind, whether it was there or not, right? Remember, it's a feeling of jealousy. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. And I think to myself, part of this is rectified in the life of Christ, in the sacrifice of Christ, right? We learn in Hebrews that the law made nothing perfect, but Jesus makes people eternally perfect. And here is part of it that we learn in Hebrews, that these offerings, they kept bringing sin to mind and returning and churning things up. And so when there's sin in our lives, we got to make sure we leave it at the altar. When we ask for forgiveness, when we bring it to Christ, when we let go of it, we need to leave it at the altar, right? Not continually bringing it up in our mind over and over and over and over and over again. We'll just wind up falling again. And then in chapter 6, the Nazirite consecration, right? Grow your hair out, don't drink any wine, don't take anything from the vine. And then we learn in John, right? What does Jesus say? I am the vine, you are the branches, right? Abide in me and I'll abide in you. When we consecrate our lives to Christ, we are grafted in, Romans tells us. May we live consecrated lives. May we live holy lives to those around us. And may we be a blessing. May we display grace and mercy that we've been shown to others who need to know Jesus. They just don't know him yet. I pray that you would be part of that process. With that, I hope Numbers 5 and 6 were a blessing to you. Go on out, be a blessing to those around you. I'll see you tomorrow when we continue in Numbers.